Aida?
Yep.
Hi, Aida. You're on mute. Ada, you're muted. Okay.
Yeah, you, hello everyone, how's it going?
Good for you.
All right, doing okay.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, everyone. Sorry I can't be there in person. We have some work going on and I'm on call, so I may also have to step out. Hopefully not.
What about a space monster trying to dig its way out of your head?
Okay, we're
Or the other way around?
just to telling our guests, we have a few things to do first before we get to your presentation. So I call the meeting to order at 5 o'clock, 5:01. And what we do. So Michael and Aida, you want to each introduce yourself?
I'm Mike Corsi. I'm Vice Chair of the committee.
Hi, I'm Aida Gradashevich, and I've joined a couple of times now. I'm currently a graduate student at UConn, and hopefully I'll be helpful. So to continue, thank you.
Thank you. Paul?
Paul Stern, member, yeah, in good standing.
Gina DeVivo Rafa, and I'm also a member.
Sheila Amder, and I chair the committee.
Will Beagle, and I'm a member.
Jennifer?
Kaufman, Director of Planning.
I'm sorry.
Director of Planning Development. I think everyone knows me.
Okay, and Dorothy, do you want to introduce yourself?
I just do the minutes. Dorothy Del Valley, Human Services. Yeah.
Okay, so the first thing we have is,
We have an Alyssa G. Oh, we can have the applicants. Yeah.
okay. We'll have the applicants introduce themselves when we get to that section. So we have minutes of the July 6th meeting. It says 6:07, it should be 7:06, but that's European, you could say 6:07, but the July 6th meeting, is there a motion to approve?
There's one typo.
Okay,
It refers to John Stern. It should be Paul Stern.
I don't even notice my own name is wrong.
It's
Okay, maybe I should read the minutes sometime.
It's under old business.
okay. Okay, any other corrections or additions? So motion to approve as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And then the minutes of July 27th. This was our special meeting of the committee. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Okay, Will moved and Michael seconded. Is there
Second.
any issues on these? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, they're passed. Okay, and is there any member of the public that's with us that wishes to comment? I think the other two folks that are there are with you, with the hub. Yeah, okay.
That is correct.
So I think, excuse me, what? Oh, no, yeah, I think that they're with them. Okay. So under new business, we're going to be discussing with the people that are proposing what is called the hub at King Hill Road and North Eagleville Road. So why don't you, I don't know who's leading for you. Why don't you introduce yourselves, please?
Great, I'll get started for us. Thank you for having us. My name is Tom Cody. I'm an attorney at the firm of Robinson and Cole. Our office is located in Hartford, and I represent the applicant, Wilhusky Housing LLC. And with me are several members of our professional team, including Andrew Savoy, Vice President of Development for Core Spaces from Chicago, Illinois, and Eric Wright, who is the Vice President of Construction for Wilmerite Construction. This This project right now is at the stage of, we have submitted a special permit application to the Planning and Zoning Commission. We've also submitted it in the wetland permit application, which will be heard in the near future. It is a proposal for a mixed-use community, including a group dwelling use type for residential uses and related retail and restaurant uses. And so what we would like to do this afternoon is Andy is going to run through some slides and give you a brief presentation as to the project. And then he's going to turn it back to me, and I'm going to dig into the affordable housing piece of the application and talk to you a little bit about how we've addressed the affordable housing requirements contained in the zoning regulations.
Is Alyssa G, who's up here with you?
Oh, Alyssa is also with Core Spaces.
Okay. I just want to be sure it wasn't a member of the public that I was going to welcome.
Sorry, I didn't
But
introduce her. Why don't I turn this over to Andy? He's going to take control of the deck here. He's got a few slides to show you, and we'll get into it.
All right, sounds good. Nice to meet everybody. I'm Andy Savoy. I'm with Core Spaces. I just want to make sure everybody can hear me.
yes,
And can you see here? This is probably going to be better. Let's figure out this. Sorry, I'm connected to a second screen, and sometimes this gets finicky. Can everybody see my screen now?
yes.
Okay, good. To hide this. So I'm with Core Spaces. We're a developer based out of Chicago, Illinois, and we are co-developing this project with Wilmerite, and Eric is here from Wilmerite. Alyssa Galina is on my team. She's also on the line. And so what I'd like to do today is talk you through basically who we are, what we'd like to do, and then more specifically what we've proposed. So the project team, as I said, we're co-developing this project with Wilmerite. So Core Spaces, we're based in Chicago. We've been active for a little over a decade, and we're active in kind of university anchored markets. That's kind of our business model, which I'll go over in the next slide. But we design and develop apartment projects that are kind of catered towards the student demographic. We, over the past 10 years, have built or acquired over 30,000 beds of this type of housing, and we have about 35,000 beds kind of in the hopper to deliver for the next 3 years. So we've become very active very quickly in the past 10 years. And then Wilmerite, Eric can probably talk a little more, but they're a regional developer in the Northeast, and their portfolio is much more diversified. They've done retail, casinos and resorts, and then also a fair amount of student housing. And so at the bottom, you'll see a few of our kind of projects that we've done elsewhere. Core's business model is to provide and develop housing as close to campus as possible, but still off campus, privately owned, managed by Core Spaces. Our brand is called The Hub. So everywhere we develop a new project, it's called The Hub X. So it's The Hub Tampa is one of these projects you can see on the right. We did a hub in Madison. We've done projects all over the U.S., as you can see here. And we own and manage most of these. So if it's a red dot, that means we still own it. If it's a blue dot, that means we sold it. We strategically sell things, but most of the time we remain the owner and manager of these buildings. And so just to educate you guys on the business model and what we try, the kind of projects we try to design, our lease structure is, as I said, catered towards kind of the student renter. The leases are typically by the bed. So for a 4-bedroom unit, there would be 4 separate leases, and each of those tenants would have a key to the unit and then a separate key to their actual bedroom. And so each bed space is actually leased, is kind of the way it's done in all of our projects. The leases tend to coincide with the academic year, so all leases kind of end simultaneously at the end of the summer. And then our management team actually turns over the entire building, and move-ins kind of all occur within a weekend or two prior to the start of the academic year. We provide fully furnished units, and we have kind of a heavy amount of square footage dedicated to study areas that are kind of provided throughout the project. And so, you know, the design and program of all of our projects is really kind of set to be attractive to the student demographic. And so that's kind of our program. Jump into the site that we're looking at, and I basically pulled this from the zoning website just to show you where the site is and how it fits and why it's kind of ideal for our program. The sites are outlined in red and the university is in gray. So as you can see, we're practically landlocked by the university, but not actually university property. You'll see that there's two sites. There's a road called Eagleville Road that kind of divides the two sites, so we can get into that a little bit more later. And then the purple color actually denotes PB4 zoning. So that is one of that's Planned Business 4. It's one of the most dense zoning classifications in the zoning regulations. And it actually allows for the development of what's called a group dwelling unit in the regulations. And so that's a newer concept that allows for 4 and 5 bedroom units. And so you can see that due to the location and the underlying zoning of the site, this is really exceptionally well suited for our program and our business plan. And so zooming in a little bit to, you know, the sites particularly that we're talking about, I've outlined them in purple on the top left image. We call these Site A and Site B, one on the south side of Eagleville and one on the north side. Site A is on the south side. That's basically a 2-acre parcel. There's a commercial shopping center with a Subway and a Sam's Market on part of the site. There are also some vacant buildings, a residential building, and some surface parking. That site actually, there's something like 26 feet of grade change because it actually is bound by King Hill Road on the south, and that's something like between 12 and 24 feet higher than Eagleville, which is over the Eagleville Brook. On the other side of the street, you have Site B. That is a 1.5-acre site, and that's currently improved by a commercial building that houses the Huskies Tavern, which is one of the most popular sports bars in town. And that site you'll see is also has some topography going on. If you look to the right in that image, it's basically it goes uphill from Eagleville instead of downhill towards Eagleville like the other site does. So both of the buildings that I'm about to show you are kind of built into the side of a hill to deal with that topography. And this is kind of an overview of what we have proposed. 2 buildings on either side of Eagleville Road. I've labeled Site A and Site B here, and I've kind of summarized the density that we've proposed in Site A and Site B. So altogether, between the 2 buildings, we have 455 units, 1,171 bedrooms, and that fits in with the density that is allowed in the underlying zoning. There's also almost 14,000 square feet of commercial space. And so the Huskies Tavern would actually relocate from Site B into retail space in Site A as part of this project. So Huskies is actually staying right there, but they're going to get a new kind of commercial space out of this. And we are also in conversations with the other retail tenants to determine whether or not they would like to stay in the project. We do have enough retail square footage to actually accommodate them. So both buildings would be 8 stories. It's basically a 3-story concrete podium is what we call it. That would be kind of a walkout basement situation, kind of built into the side of the hill. And then on top of that, there's 5 stories of wood frame.
Hey, Andy, could I jump in real quick?
Sure.
This is Eric. I just happened to check my email and I got a note from Jennifer saying that they're having technical difficulties. So I don't know that the rest of the commission is hearing this right now.
Okay. Let's stop my share. Oh yeah, they disappeared.
The meeting's being recorded, by the way.
Okay, should we just proceed on, or would you like us to pause?
If you're talking, you're on mute.
Michael, of course, have you heard what we've been saying so far?
I have, yes. And Ida?
She has, but the folks at town hall have not. Okay.
Let's see. I'm guessing Jennifer's usually in charge of the Zoom at the high school, right? Is it?
Yes. Oh, so the people in the town hall aren't hearing this?
Yeah, they're back.
They're coming back in now.
Okay. Yeah, they're coming back. There they are.
Oh, it was a good test run.
Status report from conference room B. Can you hear us? You're on mute. We've lost him again, it looks like.
And again.
Mike's eyes are now closed.
It's spotty. You can type in the chat and tell them we're having a technical problem. Well, this is probably Mike.
Okay. Internet connection is unstable.
Yeah.
So we're
We're
gonna have no matter what.
having an unstable internet connection. So we've got.
Been a lot of
you're
problems
like,
here with that.
talk- So we had a motion for about
I
4
think
seconds.
frankly, we should.
And then you're still frozen. And phone to your
You're gonna have
head.
to do post.
Your piece
This isn't-
So
This isn't.
I'll just
working,
keep this
so-
line open temporarily.
This isn't good.
Start this out.
Patient.
Okay, did Michael say you could hear us?
No, he cannot hear it.
Actually, we can hear you
I've got
now.
him. Good.
Okay,
Oh, we're getting there.
Oh, yeah, you're moving again.
Oh.
No, you stopped, no.
You're moving, but the other three are not.
No, he stopped
So you
too.
stopped.
Maybe because there's, oh, Andrew moved.
We
Okay.
can hear you. Can you hear
Okay.
us?
Yes.
Yeah, I wonder if perhaps the applicants can everyone can just shut off your cameras, that will take up less bandwidth. And then, Andrew, if you can share your screen.
Absolutely.
And then we'll just try that. And if we continue, we'll just have to adjourn and reconvene. That's just sometimes, that's what happens with hybrid meetings.
Okay. So I think, so what is the last thing?
There we go.
So let's turn on.
I'm having a lot of trouble hearing, actually. Anyone else here?
No.
No, it's.
Yeah,
So, Dorothy, I wonder if we could just I can do that here.
We're still trying to get this.
And I'll do my
Working.
hotspot maybe, I don't know.
Is there a chance that maybe you could just call in on a telephone line, so it's not internet based, and maybe we can just share this presentation with you afterwards? I think in general, Andy's on the dry run, they did a pretty good job of giving you context of the site. So if there's any questions, we can certainly answer them after.
Eric, I'm not hearing them. Are they dialing in? Can't see the.
I'm not sure. I'm gonna email Jennifer right now and see. Unless Michael can call his counterpart that's at the high school.
Okay. I just talked to Paul. He said they're having unstable internet connection. They're considering hooking up to Jennifer's hotspot, and if that doesn't work, then adjourn.
Okay.
Okay. It sounds like you're back. Are you on the hotspot? You guys are on mute, by the way. Do you guys have a hard cable connection, Ethernet cable? Okay, I see Jennifer and Will.
Um,
Oh, there you go.
Jennifer is muted.
yeah.
Okay.
I got it back. You hung up.
Can you,
You're getting feedback now. You're picking the microphone somewhere. Is yours thinking of a mic?
okay, I mute myself. I don't,
You know what? I think we should adjourn this. Oh,
It's better now.
I do it.
Well, that's off. That works.
Okay. We can hear you now.
can you hear us? No.
You can hear us though?
Yep, we can.
Okay.
And we can hear you.
Let's try it. I'm gonna shut off my camera.
Shut off your microphone too.
Yeah,
Yeah, our microphone is off.
yeah,
Oh, it is.
and I don't really need to be here if this is working. So let's just try from the top and we'll see how this goes.
I'm going to share my screen. Eric, I can't see who's there, so if they go away, please jump in and let me know.
Yep.
I'm going to share that, and okay, we're starting from the top. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not sure. I'm going to start from the absolute top because I'm not sure where I got cut off. So I'm Andy Savoy. I'm with Core Spaces. We're a developer based out of Chicago, Illinois, and we've been active for a little over a decade. And we design and develop projects that are in university anchored markets. And these are usually housing projects. In this case, it's a mixed use project with housing and some retail. This is a slide kind of showing the project team. So we have representatives from both Core Spaces and Wilmerite here. So it's Alyssa Galena and I of Core Spaces, and Eric Wright from Wilmerite is on the line as well. Core Spaces, as I said, has been active for almost a decade. We have built or acquired over 30,000 beds over the past decade-ish, and we're set to deliver roughly 35,000 more in the next 3 years. So we've been very active in this space. Wilmerite, who's also on the line, is a developer based out of New York, and they actually have a very diverse kind of portfolio of projects they've done that includes retail, it includes casinos and resorts, as well as some student housing. So we are kind of co-developing the project. You're seeing our project team there as well. We have 2 architects as well as Langen. And then, of course, Tom Cody from Robertson Cole is on the line as well. At the bottom of this slide, you'll see a few of our portfolio projects. One in Champaign at the University of Illinois, another one at Virginia Tech on the Core Spaces side, and then Syracuse from the Wilmerite side. So we have done this in many markets between us. Our business model is something I just want to educate everybody on, just so that we understand what we're trying to build here. So as you can see by the map in the bottom left portion of the slide, we develop projects nationally in university anchored markets. We have something like 25 of them at this point. And the red dots indicate a project that we currently own and manage. Blue dots indicate projects that we built but then later sold. So we actually own and manage most of our projects. And just a few key aspects of the kind of product type that we like to try to develop. It's very much designed to be attractive to the student demographic. And so the leases are all by the bed. So for a 4-bedroom unit, for example, you would have 4 separate leases, and each lease would just cover the bed space. And so each tenant would have a key to the actual unit and then another key to their own bedroom. And that's what they're actually leasing. Leases tend to coincide with the academic year in our projects. And so leases end at the end of the summer and begin in the middle of August. And there is a 1 to 2 week period in between where our property management team actually turns over the entire building to make it ready for the next wave of leases. All of our units are fully furnished, and we like to incorporate study areas into our program because that's a very important part of the program, and it's important to our target demographic. So Core Spaces, in the project I'm about to show you, we would actually be the property manager as well as the owner. And it would be under our brand, The Hub. So you can see a few examples on the right of other Hub projects we developed, one in Tampa. There's another one in Madison at the bottom right. And so I guess the point here is to convey that these projects are designed with the student renter in mind to be attractive to a student. And that's been our our business plan for the past decade, and we've been very successful in employing that over the past decade. And so I'm going to change the slide now to, this is actually a clip from the zoning map of Mansfield. And you can see our site is outlined in red. It's actually on either side of Eagleville Road. There's actually 2 sites. In gray is UConn's campus. And so you can see that we're practically landlocked by campus. The orange color, where it says PB4, indicates that this is a planned business for zoning, which is one of the highest density zoning classifications in the zoning regulations, and actually specifically allows for the development of what are called group dwelling units. And a group dwelling unit is defined as a unit that has 4 or more bedrooms. So the zoning regulations seem to contemplate a use very, very similar to what we're proposing as a base case use for this underlying zoning code. And so when we saw this site, we thought that it was exceptionally well suited for our business model and what we typically provide and have provided around the country. And so that's why we're very excited to kind of push the ball forward on our application. Zooming into the site a bit, you'll see the site includes 2 land parcels, one on the south side of Eagleville Road and one on the north side of Eagleville Road. We're just calling the south side Site A and the north side Site B, just so everybody knows what we're talking about at any given time. And then some of the kind of aspects of the existing conditions of those sites. If you look at the bottom left photo, that's looking at Site A from Eagleville Road. And there's a small commercial shopping center there that has a Subway and a Sam's Market. There's also a vacant steel building and a residential single-family home further up on the hill. You'll notice there's about 2 stories of grade change in between King Hill Road and Eagleville Road. And that's just kind of some topographic challenge for the site. There's also a wetland actually at the bottom of the hill, closer towards Eagleville Road, on the western half of the site. And so some significant topographic challenges at Site A. Site B also has some real topography, as you can see the image on the bottom right. You can see there is some hill going up there, but that's actually improved with a commercial building that actually as a tenant is Husky's Tavern, which is one of the most popular sports bars around UConn. So these are the existing conditions we're working with, and Site A is roughly 2 acres, Site B is roughly 1.5 acres. And so as I kind of get into the details of what we're proposing, you can kind of see the general mass and scale of what it is that we're proposing. I've labeled Site A on the right, Site B on the left. Eagleville Road is the road that goes in between those 2 buildings. And in total, we're proposing 455 units of group dwelling units. That's 1,171 bedrooms and 591 parking spaces. And as part of the project, there's also almost 14,000 square feet of retail. So Husky's Tavern is actually going to stay in the project, moving from the north side of Eagleville Road, which is where they are currently in Site B, to the south side in the retail space located in Site A, which you'll see later. And then both buildings are going to be what we call wood frame over podium buildings. So it's basically 3 stories of concrete that's kind of built into the side of the hill. That concrete podium houses the parking and then supports a wood frame building above for the kind of residential components of the building. I'm going to briefly run through the plan for each building, and then I'll turn it over to Tom to talk about our affordable strategy here. So what you're looking at is the very lowest level of Site A. So Eagleville Road would be at the top of the page. And the key moments here to note is you'll see a large yellow square, or we've labeled Husky's. That would be the new location for Husky's Tavern. We have a couple other retail spaces noted in yellow. The red space would be our lower lobby entry for our building. And then you see where the two arrows are to the top right corner of the building footprint. That's our primary access point from Eagleville Road, where if you were parking in our deck, you would pull in. It would also be the entrance point for retail parking and trash pickup. So trash trucks would not be stopping along Eagleville Road. They would actually pull all the way into the building to collect the trash and then pull all the way out facing forward. So you're never backing up into traffic. This is the King Hill side. So this is one level above the Eagleville Road side. And so you'll see there's a secondary vehicular access point along King Hill, bottom left of the plan. And then as we move to the right, you'll see kind of an Uber drop-off, rideshare drop-off area, which has been denoted by a curb cut. And then to the bottom right part of the floor plate, you'll see a large red area. That would be our primary lobby and entrance, which is directly across the street from UConn's campus and the new lab building. You'll see these blue units that are in L shapes. These basically flank the side of the parking structure so that you can't actually see the parking structure from Eagleville. You get these kind of nice rhythm of windows and residential units that look out onto Eagleville rather than just an open parking deck. And then as we move up the building, we ended up with something close to a W shape, where you basically have kind of a typical residential style floor plate. Most of our units are 4-bedroom or 5-bedroom units. And we do have some level of double occupancy where you actually have more than one bed in a single room, because that is specifically allowed in the underlying zoning. Site B, this is on the other side of the road. So this is the north side of Eagleville Road. The image on the left shows the lowest level. And so the way the grade runs from left to right, it goes up about a level. So in the bottom left corner where you see these arrows that go back and forth, that's the primary vehicular access point for the parking deck. That's also where trash would be picked up. As you move to the right from there, we do have some retail space in this building as well that's shown in yellow. And then we have service functions shown in brown, because by the time you get to the right, you're actually underground at that point because the grade is sloping upward. And so moving to the floor plate on the right, this shows the next level up. You'll see this open cut here to allow for a trash truck to actually maneuver inside the building and get out. And then that red color, again, that's the second lobby entrance for the second building, would be to the right, right at the intersection of LaDoit and Eagleville Road. Moving on up, the third level is pretty boring to look at. It's just parking. And then we get to our typical floor plate, which is kind of a figure-8 style floor plate that then gets cut back on the upper level to allow for some kind of rooftop experience. And that is kind of a summary of what we propose and the project that's included in our application. I'll hand it over to Tom if he's on to talk about our affordable strategy.
Thank you, Andy. So as the committee, I'm sure, is aware, the zoning regulations include requirements for applicants in multifamily and group dwelling projects to provide affordable and workforce housing. And those requirements very, very generally are that 15% of units or group dwelling bedrooms must be affordable, and an additional 5% of the units would be considered workforce housing. Now, the regulations also include several alternative means of compliance with this requirement, which would be instead of actually providing the units in the project. And this application indeed proposes one of these alternative means of compliance, and that is we've chosen to go down the path of proposing a fee in lieu payment, and the regulations include a formula for how the fee in lieu payment should be calculated, and that formula is 4% times the total square footage of net rentable floor area for all dwelling units times the construction cost per square foot, referencing certain publications. And so when we use that formula, we determined that the proper fee would be $3.3 million. Now, the regulations also include criteria for the Planning and Zoning Commission to determine when it is appropriate for an applicant to choose and to utilize an alternative method of compliance. There are 4 criteria. I'll quickly run through them. The first addresses the number of required income restricted units and the practicality of incorporating the units into the development. The second looks to the proximity of the proposed development to existing or planned employment, schools, and commercial services. The third criteria looks to the compatibility of the project with surrounding land uses. And then finally, whether there are difficulties complying with local, state, or federal requirements relating to the provision of affordable housing. Now, as you saw from Andy's presentation, the practicality of providing affordable and workforce units here is quite challenging. The site location, the group dwelling style of development, the project lease structure, the fact that units are fully furnished, the amenities and the programming of the project, all of this indicates that it would be impractical to include affordable housing and workforce housing units pursuant to the regulations. We also see, as you saw from the zoning map, that the site is virtually surrounded by the university, and it is essentially embedded in that land use type of the university. So we're really forcing affordable units into this project would not only be impractical, but it would really also be ineffective in accomplishing the town's affordable housing goals, at least as set forth in the zoning regulations and the Plan of Conservation and Development. The POCD looks to maintain a balanced and sustainable local economy, which requires the availability of a stable and qualified workforce. And a key element of the town's identity is its diversity, including social, economic, and political considerations, and the general sense of community that occurs through all of the relationships built by residents in town, and preserving the availability of housing that is reasonably affordable to this workforce is essential. So looking at those goals as set forth in the POCD, we would submit that this project could not achieve really any of that if we were required to actually include affordable and workforce units in this project. This project would be occupied by transient students, and affordable units. I mean, if the students were permitted to occupy an affordable unit, which it's not clear that they would, but if they could, obviously that doesn't meet the POCD goal. And then if students would not be allowed to live in them, the units would essentially be empty, because there will be very few, if any, non-students living in this project. So in this scenario, the biggest loss really is to the town, because it would essentially lose the opportunity to gain a $3.3 million fee in lieu payment. And we would submit that the town's goals might be better achieved by utilizing the $3.3 million payment and putting it towards targeted affordable housing projects that meet the town's goals as described in the POCD. So one final thought. Obviously, the project is located near UConn. We expect that it will be attractive to university students who will want to live in private housing, yet still be very close to the campus. You know, we all are familiar with the fact that many students are currently living in single-family rentals in nearby neighborhoods, but these accommodations lack the amenities and the convenience that this professionally managed project will offer. And by offering students a better housing alternative and more appropriate housing alternative as compared to the single-family homes in nearby neighborhoods where many of them currently live, we think that some pressure will be taken off the housing stock and may result in some gains in affordability elsewhere. And so for all of these reasons, you know, after much careful thought and consideration, the applicant is proposing the fee in lieu route of achieving an alternate means of compliance with the affordable housing requirement and proposing a $3.3 million payment to satisfy that requirement. So we'll pause there and ask the committee if you have any questions. We'd be happy to try to address them.
Yes, thank you very much. I think there are questions and we'll go around the room to the committee members. Gina DeVivo Brassau, I think you had,
Yeah.
why don't you start?
Should I start with? I actually had a question first.
Okay, go
Could I
ahead.
do two
Sure,
things?
sure.
And I believe this is named Tom, the attorney.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom, you use the term that it would be, for practicality purposes, you viewed that it's impractical to have affordable units, like you just said said it would be impractical due to the group dwelling and property lease.
Mhm.
Could you expand on that, why they use that as the basis?
Or could I just expand on what Gina said? This is Sheila Amder, because I'm not sure if you can see us. Yeah, so I had a similar question. I mean, I think it's a matter of choice in terms of developing a group residence. And so the issue that I would want to raise as an elaboration of what Gina has said is one could choose a different design to put in affordable units as part of this too, as well as have the group dwelling units. But so please talk about this practicality, who is it more practical for?
Well, I'll start this and then I'm going to ask Andy to finish. But this project, as Andy said, the business model here that is being employed is appropriate for a group dwelling type of development, and group dwellings are different, you know, than multifamily. They will be designed and constructed differently and have different features and aspects to them. Practicality when it comes to affordable housing, one example is that state and federal regulations really measure affordability based on units and not bedrooms. And implementing that in a group dwelling concept will be very difficult. That's one logistical, impractical part of it. But let me ask Andy to address perhaps the chair's fundamental question as to why you've chosen this business model for the project versus a different one.
No, excuse me, that wasn't my question, Attorney Cody. My question really related to potentially doing a mixed model for construction. But because what this, just to add for the town, the problem it presents, I mean, we're just an advisory committee, obviously zoning will take care of this, but the problem that it presents is it raises the number of total units in the town, making it so that the town has to come up with many more affordable units that aren't going to be provided by this development. Yes, there's payment, but that, that's not going to help us build those 119 units or whatever. It's not going to build those units. But so my question really had to do not with changing your business model, but having a somewhat mixed model as part of this that would allow affordable apartments.
I'll let Andy address that change of the business model question.
Absolutely. So we have kind of designed the building to be the most cost effective it can be, and things are most cost effective when they stack, right? So these units stack. It's very costly to have a situation in which a unit doesn't stack. And so you're left with basically allocating these units, which have been designed for group dwelling, and calling them affordable. But here, I'll just zoom in on one for you. This 2-bedroom is a 2-bedroom with 4 beds in it. And so, I don't think that that's going to be extremely attractive for the average person to have a fully furnished 4-bedroom unit or a 2-bedroom unit with 4 beds in it. And would they be willing to basically vacate the unit for a week every July while we turn over the entire building? These are the reasons why we think that it's impractical and likely not going to be attractive to an average person and much more well suited to students. That's just one reason. Another reason, let's take a look at this plan here. There's a question of separate access here. If we were going to do what you were talking about, we would need separate access, but the site constraints, for example, we have a wetland along Eagleville Road. The one area where we can actually pull a trash truck in, we're using, and then we have some retail we have to satisfy. So there's not really an opportunity for a separate entrance. And if we were to mix the different types, you would think that you'd want a separate entrance so that you don't have, a family with a child living next to a 5-bedroom unit full of students. And so for these reasons, we feel that it's very impractical to mix the 2 housing types. We do think that by providing, there's 12,000 beds on campus, there's 18,000 students. So by providing more housing that will be attractive to students, you take pressure off of the shadow market, and that will result in naturally occurring affordability in the shadow market. My personal opinion is that these single-family homes and smaller apartments with yards are frankly more appropriate for the families that you are trying to help with this program.
Thank you. Okay, Gina will go ahead related to student.
Yeah, that's actually, I was like, oh, what a great segue. So, I want to actually thank you both, because I do think thinking about affordable housing in this type of model is different. And you use the word difficult, and it conceptually is difficult. But so, I know you've probably looked at a lot of the UConn data, and I shared some of the stats I'm going to talk about. I shared with Jennifer so she can send to all of you, but we know that there's, and UConn students are part of our community when they're here. So when we talk about students, they are also part of our workforce because they do provide, employees at Dunkin' Donuts, which just closed for the summer because they don't have enough people to work there. But so we know, statistically, there's about 27,000 students total that go to UConn. To rent or to live on campus, it's about $7,000. And out of that 27,000, 9,500 were determined to have financial need, and then 9,211 were awarded financial aid based on that need. And in Connecticut, housing insecurity and poverty among college students is a very key issue. The university and our state system have all opened up food banks for students, because 1 in every 3 college students is facing hunger issues. But we also know, not only nationally, but also very critically locally, that we have like 1 in 5 students face housing insecurity. And that's mostly due to their financial situation. And so our state college system, along with the Connecticut Coalition to End Homelessness, actually did a report on college student housing issues, and some of their key findings. I'm just going to talk about a few, but the majority of homeless and unstable housed students indicated that they needed transportation to improve their well-being. Homelessness and housing instability affected students from both urban locations and affluent suburbs, meaning like a place like UConn. And really that the majority, 31%, said they couldn't stay where they are. So we know that housing is a key issue to help. So what happens, obviously, and there's been reports on this that I think Jennifer will share, right? But when a student becomes unstable or insecure in their housing, they leave school. And so that affects our community and actually creates a more transient type student experience when we have more people moving in and out because they are not able to stay. And what we want to do is help ensure that the students are able to matriculate and succeed to graduation, right? So what I was concerned about really was on the page 10 of your outline. You wrote that the affordable units might largely be occupied by transient students rather than the long-term residents of the town, but really given the state data, we know the more stable a student is, the more likely they are to then stay, and they would stay here for the 4 years, which ultimately then helps support our town in building our workforce and building our community. And this project, like when I looked at it, I was like, the proximity, the compatibility is amazing. Like it can actually alleviate so many of the barriers that are outlined in that state report because of your great proximity.
You need a car.
Yeah, you don't need a car, you can
to the
walk.
store.
This model is actually a terrific model for students because it can provide a different type of access that they might not already have. But I do think it would be difficult. So I think exactly what you just said, Andrew, it isn't necessarily part of the model, but we're 18 to 21-year-olds or people in that demographic. Also, they have financial restraints as well. So I just don't know how you've taken that into consideration, especially since our demographic, we know has, 1 in 5 chance of having housing instability. And this would be such a great support if you're able to do this. I don't know how you have addressed it in other areas. It is a key thing we're interested in and really striving for in town. So I was hoping maybe you could speak to that.
Sure. So I think you have to look at these things as a whole. And in my opinion, the solution to a housing crisis is to build more housing. That the entire ecosystem of housing operates as an ecosystem. And by providing more units, you're creating a situation in which projects have to compete. And we'll be the nicest, newest project for a while until a new one comes. And so as we're talking about alleviating this housing insecurity, I do think that taking the pressure off of the shadow market, which is a limited market, will help those students who are dealing with that issue. In other markets where we've been forced to put these things on site, what ends up happening is that all the other units get more expensive because this is a project is basically a formula. We're going to have a construction loan, we're going to have our own bills to pay, and so the average rent needs to be the same. So we like to be able to compete with a market rate project, and having affordable units in our project will cause us to have to raise rent on all of the other units to compensate. And so we have been pushed into this scenario before. We strongly prefer not to go that route, given the fact that the 1,400 beds of pressure that's currently on the shadow market now would be alleviated, and we'd be competing with the Oaks, and we'd be competing with Landmark, and students who don't necessarily have to live in a luxury building, brand new, can find housing in that shadow market, and typically larger units, and fine units. And so I think you do have to look at this as kind of a continuum and as more of an ecosystem, and not as a single project by project basis.
Paul?
Thank you. Can you call up the architect, you have the architectural plan there. Could you call up and help and walk me through a 4-bedroom unit and describe to me what that consists of? I'm looking at one, can't tell where it is on the scheme of things, but it's in a corner unit. It's got 1,500 square feet.
Right. So we have, I wish I had better resolution plans for you here. Not expecting to actually go into detail like this, but let's just pull one up. So this is a 4-bedroom. It's kind of hard to tell, but you would actually enter from the corridor. You have this kind of black shape here, which would be the kitchen. This is a living room that would look out onto a court, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4 bedrooms, and 1, 2, 3, 4 bathrooms. So everybody gets their own bedroom and their own bathroom. We strive for that parity.
Okay, so so each of this is a discrete unit, if you will. It's one chunk of your project, and it contains a living room, a kitchen, 4 bedrooms, and 4 bathrooms. The bedrooms would each have their own locked door. Is that correct?
Right. So we individually key every bedroom. So you could actually lock your bedroom and nobody else in the unit would have a key.
Yeah.
Well, so with the exception of the locks on the doors, how is this any different from a multifamily unit?
And it has private access.
And it has off a corridor, just like any apartment building. How is that any different from what we call a multifamily unit?
Well, it would be furnished, so that's different. Most people have furniture, but students don't. So we provide all the furniture, and we buy all the furniture all at once, so it's already there. So that's one difference. Another difference is that as a proportion of bedroom-bathroom parity, most 4-bedroom multifamily units don't have 4 bathrooms. Sometimes we lease to students that don't know each other, really, and so it actually works out to have a lock on the door and your own bathroom, so that you don't have to deal with the cleanliness habits of someone you just met.
I get it.
And so that's a little different. I think if you look at the size of the rooms, it is a little bit smaller, more dorm style. And in some of our larger units, we actually end up with 2 refrigerators, just given the number of occupants per unit.
So, but essentially they would be sharing the kitchen and sharing the living room space.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
And then another thing that's a little different is just given it's a huge endeavor to manage one of these things, and to have everybody move in on the same weekend and everybody move out on the same weekend is a huge endeavor. And our management team likes that to happen for all the units at once.
Okay.
Otherwise, it just becomes too big of a headache. So the rhythm of the lease turnover is also very, very much set in stone.
But that's
Unlike
driven
a typical
by your business decision to build this kind of structure, is it not? I mean, you could have decided to build what we typically refer to as multifamily, and not had locks on the doors and not had, individual pieces. So
But if you look at
the consequence of the decision that you've made on what to build.
that is true.
Okay.
If you look at the zoning map, though, there's not another site in Mansfield that is better suited for this type of development.
I couldn't
These 2 sites.
agree with you more. This is a perfect location for a private dormitory, which is basically what this is. But my question now is, who can rent one of these units?
Paul, let me address that. Because the town recently went through review of another project, and this issue came up during the review of the landmark project, and And how that ended up shaking out was that the town very much wanted the covenants to be clear that students would not be permitted to qualify for affordable units. And in general,
No,
Unless they were finding actually bona fide, low income,
right.
qualified.
Yeah. there's exemptions, but by and large, under typical low-income housing tax credit program regulations, a household comprised of full-time students would generally not qualify for
Well,
affordability status. That was written right into the landmark covenants at the request of the town. So I'm not sure that you would even get what you would hope to get
let me just,
from this project.
so just Attorney Cody, I think that was you. I'm sorry, because we can't see you. We've talked with, since then, we've talked to the other two other potential developments and talked to them about using the definitions that were either under HUD for Section 8 related to students and student families, or under the low income tax credit. And frankly, those clearly define what students would be eligible under, for affordable housing under those. It would not be exclusionary. And I don't,
The low income housing tax credits maybe, but the
No.
other,
I didn't know that there were provisions.
We are,
in those.
yeah,
our experience with other projects and developers is that projects in this group, in this category of use, are generally not, affordable units are generally not being taken up by full-time students. That's the norm in the industry.
Where else, you mentioned that you've been pushed, quote unquote, pushed into this scenario before. Where has that, where is that? Where did that happen?
Berkeley, Los Angeles, Boulder. Those are three that are on the top of mind.
I only heard one. Los Angeles, what was the first
Boulder.
one? Boulder?
Berkeley, Boulder.
Berkeley,
It's interesting.
So in those cases, I'm sorry to jump in.
Yeah.
Yeah, Andy, so in those cases, it sounds like what you're saying, and Attorney Cody, like that the affordable units end up not going to college students. That they go to a different population of people? Is that, I guess and that becomes the hesitancy? Because then you wouldn't be actually marketing and supporting. I guess I'm just trying to connect that.
The way we connect the dots is that because this project is being designed, and in fact, it's the essential nature of this is to serve a student housing type of population. If students cannot qualify, then the units are not going to be occupied.
What if I wanted to live in one? I just got out of prison. Like, I got no place to live. What if I wanted to rent one of these units? I was willing to move out for a week or two and all that.
I mean, I'll ask Andy. I mean, Andy, you've got what, 30,000 units or bedrooms?
yeah,
And
so the answer to the question, I'm just gonna
what percentage ends up being not students?
about like 0.1%, about 1 in 1,000, just how it ends up. And I would add that as a matter of practicality and compliance with affordable housing laws, we will rent to anybody who wants to come and sign a lease as long as they qualify.
Yeah.
And that means that you got to be willing to move out in July, move back in August, take a fully furnished unit and pay by the bed. And if you're willing to do all those things, it does not matter whether or not you're a student. We will rent to you.
Okay.
It just so happened that in our experience, not many people do want that or fit into that category.
Exactly.
Yeah. Andrew, so in Berkeley, Boulder, and Los Angeles, do you find that the affordable units are going to students in need?
Or they're sitting empty?
In Los Angeles, we're actually working with USC to try to figure out a way to get them to students in need, but there is nothing like that written into the law.
Yeah,
And so that's something we're trying to figure out right now, to be frank with you.
yeah,
The way it's written, it's just, it's to regular people who need it. It's not necessarily to students or limited to students. Another thing I would point out in both, and actually in all three of those markets, the average rent is really, really high. They're not price sensitive markets. This is in California.
yeah.
Mansfield is not that way. We have to keep our average rent affordable and in line with the market. We can't go out and charge $4,000 for a 1-bedroom unit. We just can't. It just won't work. So part of this balance is to keep the rest of the deal in a rent profile that makes sense for the university and for just the average student who can pay a market rate for the project. And
Let me just,
go ahead.
just a second, Gina. So I just wanted to mention that we do have students renting affordable units in town. A lot of the units that our housing authority has, moderate income units, are taken up by graduate student couples and graduate student families, just to make a note of that.
Andrew, so our cost to stay in a dorm is roughly $7,200. What do you estimate your rent will be?
It depends on the unit type. Alyssa, do you happen to remember specifically the high and the low rent here? It's actually it's modest. It is more than $7,000. Is that per year or per semester?
Oh, I just looked it up. I'm sorry. I think that's per semester. Yeah, that
Sounds
sounds
like
like
that.
it's per semester. So 14,000 would make more sense because I was like doing the math. I was like,
So for a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom unit, which is, I would say, fairly typical throughout the project and at a modest or, more reasonable rent, it would be $17,000 roughly in today's dollars for a 12-month lease. So, whereas the university would be 14,000, you get an extra pretty much 2 months out of it. So it is, within, I would say, the realm of the cost to live on campus.
One person,
Wow.
17,000.
so each bed is 17,000 roughly, is what you just said?
Yeah, per person. Yeah.
Right, for 12 months as compared to 14,000 for 9 or 10 months on campus.
You're aware that our so-called shadow market allows students to live at a fraction of this cost, are you not? Most of the
I am.
single-family residences that have been sucked up by investors don't and rent to 3,000, the maximum 3 students per building, don't pay anywhere near this for their rent. So how do you, I'm not quite sure I understand how this competes with that.
So we actually have done some research into, now granted there was a limited sample size available because it was whatever was available on like Zillow at the time for renting, but we actually have found that to live in what I would say a much lower quality product, it's actually only like maybe $200 less a month and that doesn't probably include furniture. You might also have to get a car because you might live 15 minutes away. And so, we do feel that if you factor all of those things in, it does come quite close.
Yeah.
So I want to just see Aida, who's on, and Michael Corsi. Do either one of you have any questions or comments you'd like to make?
Yeah, this is Mike. I would like to see some of the statistics that Gina brought. I think thinking along her lines, I think it's highly desirable to put students that meet low income affordability criterion into this building. That would, again, keep them out of other affordable housing that might be more suitable for families and senior citizens, other populations. My understanding is that the need for affordable housing among students in Connecticut is really high. So I saw a report out of Senator Murphy's office, and it's called The Hidden Cost of College. It's 2020. That states a quarter of the students, this is at UConn, based on a student survey, a quarter of the students reported concerns of food insecurity, and then 64% of those students reported some sort of housing insecurity. So the combination there is you have 3,000 undergraduate students at UConn reporting both food and housing insecurity. That seems like an immense problem. And I think this is an opportunity to start to address that problem. So I think, yes, this is a building for students. Fine, let's put students in that meet the affordability criterion. It meets a lot of our other goals. It will provide diversity. The state is very much pushing for students that receive college degrees in Connecticut to stay in Connecticut by providing financial incentives. So this would help that. So I think that's basically a win-win for everybody here.
Michael, just, and Andrew, whoever wants to comment, that would be good, but if you have a link to that report, could you please send it to Jennifer and Dorothy so it can be shared?
Sure.
Okay. So I don't know if Andrew or Mr. Cody, you want to comment?
No, I don't have anything in particular to respond on that. Just-
Well, would it be conceivable that you could actually, well, let me turn this around. On some of the projects elsewhere in town, there's a requirement that imposed by the zoning board that the properties be marketed to the least, oh, you can't see me making air quotes, least likely person to apply for one of the units. Is it conceivable that in this case, the availability of a certain limited number of low-income students could be marketed to students, to qualified, bona fide, low-income students as a contribution, let's call it, to the betterment of the campus and the university and the town. You are aware that Connecticut is in a housing crisis. I'm sure you're aware of that, and you're aware that we're required to eventually achieve a 10% affordability minimum 10% of our housing is supposed to be affordable. And if my math is correct, you're adding, I don't know, a large number of units to our denominator and would be giving us $3 million in return. And I don't know,
771 bedrooms.
1,100, how many units?
455.
455 units.
Okay.
So we would have to get like 48, we'd have to build 48 low income or affordable units with our $3 million, which is of course an absurd notion. So you can see the position we're in here. There are some real benefits to the state and to Mansfield to open as quickly as possible as many affordable units as possible. And if this ecosystem has a bunch of low-income students in it, I would think that would be, as Mike said, a win-win.
Okay. Would you like to comment? I also want to see if Aida, who's a member of the committee and is on Zoom, wanted to comment.
Was that a question for me?
No, just 1 second. Aida, are you on the? Yes, you can go right ahead. I don't see her on the.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Did you want to comment?
Yes, thank you, everyone. Thanks for spending the time to explain everything. And actually, I grew up in Boulder, Colorado, so I'm familiar with the conditions and the challenges that a college town like Boulder, and then of course like Storrs, Connecticut, is facing. So I think it would be very helpful for us to see maybe some kind of case studies, as you have mentioned, Andrew and Mr. Cody earlier, some case studies maybe with some similar locations or conditions, or some precedent studies, just some research that shows what kind of impact this kind of housing has had on college towns. I think that would be really helpful to us to read through this, or to kind of, understand this kind of project in certain locations that are similar to Storrs. And I also see that this could be a missed opportunity. I understand that your business model is, targeting students and housing, and it does not seem to, contemplate affordable housing. But I think it's a missed opportunity, since adding so many units, would actually really kind of address the issues that we do have in this community. So thank you for letting me speak.
Okay, yes, and I'm sorry, so Attorney Cody or Andrew, did you want to elaborate on any of this?
Are you there? I wonder if
Are
they're.
you there?
No, we're here. I'm here. I don't have much.
I'm waiting for Tom to speak.
I think Andy's made a really key point that I'm not hearing acknowledged in the questions that are being asked, and that is that providing affordable units in this project will increase rent cost to the balance of the market rate units. And that's a serious question. It goes to viability of the project, and it goes to pricing for everybody else that's not fitting into the category. That's assuming that the students can qualify
Yes.
and can actually be deemed, qualified to be the recipient of an affordable unit. So I think that's a serious question that this developer has considered. And I guess the other observation I would make is that I know that the committee has expressed concern to the Planning and Zoning Commission that the formula for calculating fee in lieu is perhaps too low or inadequate. And I understand that you're interested in looking at the Planning and Zoning Commission to amend their zoning regulations. And that's fine. But in fairness, this applicant has spent a couple of years planning this project and preparing an application and filing an application under the regulations that are in effect now. And we followed them as closely as we could and prepared a fee in lieu proposal, which is based on the regulations. Now, maybe that formula should be changed, but that's a question for P&Z to take up as a regulation amendment.
Right, we don't disagree.
Yes,
with
we're-
you at all.
we're
don't
aware of that.
Disagree with that, and I think probably where we're disagreeing is the when appropriate to use it, the number, one of the standards is around the difficulties, which, I heard both of you explain what you would see as the difficulties. I see them as potential obstacles, but it still could be done. Andrew, I did want to ask a follow-up because you mentioned in Los Angeles that you're working with the university on identifying to fill those spots. Did that come as part of the process of mapping out the development? Is it like a strategy that you're taking? Right? Because I'm just thinking about like well, because I really do care about helping ensure that students that need this would potentially have access. And I think this is an awesome project. I think where it is in a great zone. I love the plan. I actually think this would be a very cool thing to have in our community, by and large, and just really want to see if there is a way that we can get some affordable units. And so I kind of like that idea of like, would you be open to working with and I'm not from the university, so I don't even know if they'd want to, but how that came about, if it was part of this phase, or if you were told you had to, et
We
cetera.
were told it was not a planned situation. We complied with the requirement there. And we are now kind of post-rationalizing a way to make this a bit more practical. And we haven't done it successfully yet, to be honest with you, but we are working through it because we have the affordable units and the deed restrictions are in place. So we might as well figure out a way that they won't sit vacant. So
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, and thank you for your transparency in that. That's helpful for us to see. And I honestly, I agree with you, and both you and Cody said that the other units would then cost more, which is part of the business model that you're planning out to ensure what your overall profit would be. So, all of that is part of making this plan.
So I think we've raised our issues. I don't know if there's anything yet we haven't discussed.
I have a question for Jennifer.
Yes. Okay, this is Paul Stern. I don't know if you can
I
see
can't
it.
find the zoning code references to group dwellings in
Oh.
PB4.
Well, we can discuss that after we're
I would
done.
just like that
I can get
information.
that to you.
Yes,
Yep.
we can. Okay, is there any other comments that you would like to make before we close?
I guess the one comment I'll make is it's extremely hard to do a new development project these days with interest rates rising. Our return profiles have to rise above interest rates, and construction costs are not going down. And so I think that, we've kind of conceived this project under the current regulations. And in my opinion, the true missed opportunity would be to develop if this project were to be derailed in the name of affordability and never happen, and then those 1,400 beds do not get developed, and then I think, rather than diluting the housing stock and causing more competition between landlords, I think your problem gets worse. So in my humble opinion, that's kind of the real missed opportunity here. And I just want to end with that.
All right, well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. It's a very difficult situation.
It is.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your presenting tonight.
Thank you. We're pleased to have been here.
Okay. We're gonna go on. Okay, I don't know. So I guess our question is, and maybe we need a special Zoom work session on this to talk about our own, how we're going to respond to planning and zoning.
I think we've got to come to a consensus on what we think we should be asking. And then we got to write it up and
Right.
have to make sure it makes sense and it's sound thinking and that it's fair.
And then we submit that to zoning.
And PZC has.
Yeah, it's on the record as part of the public hearing. Yeah.
And PZC decides whether they like it or they don't.
The public hearing is September 4th.
It will open, but then it's continued till September 18th because
Okay.
we're working on the peer reviewers and getting everything.
Oh, for this
So
project,
potentially
correct.
we can, at our next meeting, the first is, I think it's the 6th.
Probably the 7th or something.
September.
8th, yeah,
It's the first Thursday in September.
the 7th.
So
Their meeting is the 7th.
No, no.
our meeting is the first Thursday.
They're opening the public hearing, doing their presentation on September 18th.
So we should have it to them before then.
Absolutely.
Make
Yeah,
more
that would
clear.
be, and the sooner the better, because then our peer reviewers can also respond.
Yeah, we haven't heard from the peer reviewers. Normally we would have by now.
Right. I mean, this is basically a straightforward application, and I think really because I think the review is like counting the units and all of that stuff. Really, this is going to be up to the discretion of the Planning and Zoning Commission as to whether or not, in their opinion, and they're going to have to document that on the record, whether or not they've met those alternative means in the affordable housing regulations. So,
And they are entitled to review, as the code says, on a case-by-case basis. Is that correct?
yeah, on a case by case basis, that's
So it's
correct. Yeah,
Pretty much.
that's what it
you know,
says.
Well, I would say, well, my suggestion would be that planning and zoning have a discussion with the developer related to some way, perhaps in a, whether not fully, but even partially, meet the need for affordable housing related to students, and that we provide some of the background documentation that Gina has developed and that Michael Corsi developed.
So could you just repeat? So you're looking to see.
I'm not making a motion. I mean, I can't
Well, no,
make a
but-
motion anyhow, but.
But you're just your idea that it's in
Well,
just,
the idea is to see if there's some middle ground here that could be reached related to some of the units. And they could meet some of the units being available to students who have housing need. And there are very good definitions in both HUD and low income tax credit that could be used. I know those aren't part of the regulations, but would define those types of students who might be able to meet this, and they could, they're not, it's not known, it's confidential. A student could be in a 4-bedroom unit paying, a lesser rent.
80%.
Yes, right, based on 80% of their income. And
And they still have access to the swimming pool on the roof.
that's right. So whether there's some way to discuss this, or I don't know. I mean, it's not up to us, it's up to the Planning and Zoning Commission to decide what they.
But we have to make a
But I
recommendation.
would suggest that we make a recommendation, there be discussion regarding some middle ground related to this.
Can the PCC, you call it discussion, I would call it negotiate with the developer to cut some find some middle ground between 0 affordable units and required by the code affordable units?
I wouldn't say they can negotiate. I mean, their job is to make sure that they're meeting the regulations.
Right.
There are these alternative means to meeting affordable and workforce housing requirements. And so, I think probably it's up to the planning, well, it will be, not probably, it will be up to the Planning and Zoning Commission to determine if they've met that, like if the payment in lieu is enough, right? If they need to, I mean, certainly it's a more complicated formula, but they could do some on site. They can convert some market rate housing into income restricted units, and they could do a fee in lieu. So it's really up to, I would say it's up to the applicant to make an argument as to what is best meets the regulations, and then for the Planning and Zoning Commission to see if they agree. But
Well,
Yeah.
my feeling is that all the difficulties that they cite here of how it's impractical, et cetera, are a function of their decision to build this kind of a building or buildings. There's difficulties that they express are self-imposed to the extent that they want to build high-end furnished units with a swimming pool on the roof and, right, a private dormitory essentially. And I don't see the benefit to affordable housing in Mansfield.
Well, I think, they follow what the regulations said in lieu of,
I understand.
Okay,
So
so
that's on a
that's-
case-by-case
but
basis.
it's right,
No,
but I
And
think.
there are some
but they
specific
did-
criteria.
But my suggestion was that if the developer, who, I'm glad that everybody's still on the Zoom, might want to think about that in terms of, you could have individual students who had high housing insecurity
Yeah,
in this model, without changing the model at
that's
all.
true.
but who would be paying a different rent.
That's
Yeah.
And
absolutely
if,
true.
and I can't believe that.
So,
it's-
the regulation specifically allows for that, some middle ground that says the fee in lieu will be prorated based on this, so.
Yeah.
Well, and that it.
Based upon the, how.
Yeah.
On how many
there's a
units they
reduction
actually build as
Exactly, yeah.
opposed
Of the
to.
requirement, yes.
So,
Well, and also that they, when you look at affordable how, I think, and it's also what we've struggled with that there's all those different income limits that they don't, like, it just would take some management to say, right, like someone who, on their end, who's just monitoring
The
and then
company
it doesn't have to be the lowest income, right? They could.
Well, it's up
find
to,
middle ground, right, like.
it's up to
that's-
80%.
the law required,
It's,
Oh, for it to
our
be
regulations say up
Yeah.
to 80%, so,
up to,
so it would be
Yeah.
a student whose income would be such that they could pay 80%
yeah,
of the rent,
okay,
Right.
thank you.
yeah.
but your data shows that there are a lot of students who
Would be in that. zone.
and ought to be meeting this criteria and who could then, live there. Of course, their argument is, well, it's gonna drive the rents up. Well, that's the
That's a
case of
choice.
any of our other
Well, that's,
projects.
I guess that's where I go, could they do a lower amount of them? Still give us, and then.
That's what I
So
said.
instead
like
of
the next.
Yes, they can.
requiring,
So,
what number is the math? If they did all 15%, it would be like 48 units or something like that. 68. That's a lot of units to make up. A lot of units.
Yeah,
Michael,
no, I think the idea of quantifying what's a reasonable number and being able to present that to PZC is critical here.
we can quantify that.
Well, we
yeah, I
could
don't think.
pick a number.
I don't know. That's the question I have. Can we quantify that? I mean, because they're saying, these units are gonna be built and then nobody's gonna be renting them and they'll be left empty. And that's what they'll tell the PZC. We need to be able to come up with a reasonable number. I mean, I looked for stuff. I haven't looked at Gina's material yet, but I looked for this information. It's hard to find.
Well,
Well, that's why I was thinking the specific relation to UConn, because UConn has that specific data,
Oh,
like,
yeah, they know how many students they
yeah,
have.
that's why I probably got the best numbers from their report.
Yeah.
But-
I
Yeah.
doubt you guys are interested in this buildings.
Well, that's why I was
Okay,
like,
well.
They
yeah,
need this like they need,
well, all right. Let's, so my suggestion is that maybe let's get the information from Michael and from Gina and see some of the background and potentially have, if we want to actually suggest a number, but
I don't know that, because you would have to. So how on what grounds would you suggest a number?
Yeah.
It's almost like
Well,
market,
if we can
you know, market
establish,
analysis,
Yeah,
right? And
if
that's,
we-
five, give us five.
but if we can
Like,
establish that there is a documentable need among students for, for low-income housing, that this is a percentage
it
or
won't be
a-
low income.
whatever,
Yeah.
find a number that's supportable in real data in the real state of Connecticut. That could at least form the basis for a rational, reasonable
Recommendation,
recommendation.
right?
Wouldn't be pulling it out of the air or something. It would be we're actually trying to meet a need here. And if there is a need that we can identify and then we can meet it, what more can we ask? But I don't know how we get to that
Well,
number.
can I make a suggestion that, because I'm gonna be totally tied up over the next few weeks, I'm gonna be away. We could schedule a special, just Zoom work meeting that maybe, well, especially Michael, Paul and Gina be a part of, just a Zoom meeting that you could,
I might suggest
Like-
that you do some high level bullets and someone draft something. So you're not writing a letter by committee, just because I think that is harder. So I don't know if you have if you're able to do that tonight, like just some
Tonight,
high level bullets. Then,
of the items that we want to.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe, or research that needs to be done, just so
Yeah.
you're
Well,
coming
it
and you
wouldn't-
just have an hour meeting, but that's up to you.
If we could actually talk to LA or Boulder or, you know, some of these other places where this has, where they actually did it.
It'd be so much more magical if we could be like, work together,
Yeah,
like help us make this happen, right? Like,
right, yeah, I mean,
I'm fine with this special meeting.
Yeah,
Um,
I would like to see the report that Mike mentioned from Senator Murphy. That would be helpful. You know, I feel like we're saying exactly what we did in the meeting, right? Like, it's like.
So I would suggest that perhaps if we had set a special meeting, as I said, I can't promise you, I'm
Do
really
you want to
tied
do
up.
2 Thursdays from now?
I don't think I can participate, but we can, whichever committee members, I hope Michael and Paul and Gina, particularly, and Aida, you know something about Boulder, that would be nice. And the one, yes, you are, okay. But and maybe to that meeting, we could send to Dorothy and Jennifer any
bullets.
bullets, right?
Yeah.
that you Want to have considered in that.
If you want to send them directly to me, cannot have a legal meeting, so just make sure
No,
you don't
that's what I
copy the,
said.
yeah,
No, yeah,
just reminding everyone,
Right.
just send it directly to me. And then I'm happy to just consolidate them, and we can put them in the packet. Or me or Dorothy.
Okay.
Okay, so if we do on the 17th, and draft it that night together, does that work for folks? So that then it. gets
August
it to-
17th.
Then it gets to planning and zoning. For the next one.
Yes.
August 17th.
Okay, so Dorothy, that'll be a special meeting, August 17th.
Hang on a minute.
And
I
the
gotta look
Emily-
at something.
I know, I couldn't even come that night anyhow.
Okay, and can you verify, is this Zoom only or is this in person? Is this
I'm
hybrid?
willing to meet in
Why don't you
person.
just remote, well,
You want to meet in person?
If
Michael?
we're gonna bring,
That's fine. Either's fine.
okay,
what I would
The
suggest,
only
Special
thing is
meeting.
we have to find a room, so
Oh.
I guess it's contingent on the room.
yeah, but the 17th, I know there's an EDC meeting, so if, but that's fine. But you have a potential new member who wants to come in.
Oh, great.
about me, I'm not sure I'm a new member. I'm
Yeah,
just sitting-
no, a potential, I said.
Oh.
Well,
Yeah,
we're
and
not
it
there
has to
yet.
go through,
Okay.
yeah.
So, yeah, I'm sure we can find a room, but I,
So if not, we'll do it Zoom.
okay. Can't
so
find
we
a
should
room.
set it up as,
So we'll
Okay.
just say the 17th, because it's, I guess, making sure people are available is the most critical part, and then getting a room can be. second.
okay.
Okay, so but we have Gina, Paul, and
Mike.
Michael are available. Okay,
And
and
Aida?
Aida, are you available?
I can only do remote, so I'll be on Zoom.
Okay, so that's a quorum.
Okay, and we'll,
All right, so
And then we meet on the first Thursday. How did I not know that?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we do.
I think.
so that, we want to come up with in short order is,
And
Oh,
I'm sorry, just to go back, that's at 5. We're trying to do that at 5.
Yes,
yeah,
Okay,
sure.
all right, I'll just have to see if I can get that in my schedule.
So we're.
well, we can have someone else, you don't have to be, you don't have to.
I have to come in and set up.
Yeah, like,
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
Well, maybe if you come and set it up, we don't mind if we turn it off.
Yeah, no, that's not a
Okay.
problem. I
Yeah.
just have to make sure I'm
And I-
available
so
for setup.
we can coordinate, yeah. But the, okay, yeah, so I think, whenever we're working with an applicant, it's the burden of the proof is on the applicant, you know what I mean? You can give them ideas, you can give them, but it's their application.
Absolutely.
So you want to make sure that you're giving flexibility, you're not,
Right,
yeah, because
Yeah,
they're
I
the
agree
ones
with
who
that.
have to, right? So
or
just.
make changes. I understand. And
Exactly,
It's very
yeah.
expensive to make changes.
Yeah.
Right, so and they'll, you tell them kind of high level what you want and see what they come up with
Well, I think,
and put on the record. Actually, you'll put on the record for PZC saying what you want.
well, my position on this high level is I would like at least some reasonable proportion of actual built on the ground affordable units. Because having to make up 68 units some other day, a decade from now, with our $3 million,
Well,
it's not gonna,
yeah, it's not there.
solve the crisis,
Right,
that's for sure.
Right. Okay, Michael, could I ask, you'll chair that meeting, because I can't.
Sure. Yes,
uh, Can you just, because I'm gonna be pretty much out of town, could you just check in with Dorothy and Jennifer, a couple days in advance?
sure.
Like
Okay,
it more than 48 hours in advance.
okay, on that Monday.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. So I don't know, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I
Susan.
just think it is important for us to get it to zoning quickly, because we don't want to hold anything up.
Okay, I don't know that we have to do this. The other thing that was on the agenda, we have communications. Housing trust for potential source of funding, further discussion with presentation to town council, but that can be delayed. Until our next meeting. Unless there's anything else anybody else wants to bring up?
So are we still sending links to you? And then they get posted to the end? 'Cause I meant to apologize again, like I sent it to you, but I really just wanted to add it to the agenda, and then you sent it, so I just wanted.
Well,
to
I
make
did,
sure.
I sent, I had.
No, but she also sent it out.
So I think,
That's why I was like, I'm sorry, Jennifer, I didn't mean to.
oh, no, it's okay.
Because I was like, I just meant it to go on the
Well, I'll tell you
agenda.
what, maybe the best thing, since Dorothy does the agenda, is if there's any links that you want for the whole committee to get, just put it.
I just think it's, in my opinion, it's easier if I have one email. I know that's not
Okay.
possible, but it's when
All
you
right.
have. several
yeah, it's
emails.
a lot, because
Alright.
it's easy for the
That's
emails
right.
to get lost.
Right,
That's what,
because
I
there's so
mean,
much
I
that
probably
they're
get
dealing with.
like
Okay.
200 emails a day at least.
Okay.
So,
So I
It's hard
think,
to-
yes, now, if there's anything between now and the 17th, send it, Michael. They can-
Sure.
You can consolidate all of
Yes.
those and give them to Dorothy.
Okay,
Well, he can send
By
out
Monday.
the link to Senator Murphy's, or we send that to you and you send it.
he already sent it out.
That report's online.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I will forget.
Okay, all right. Okay, is there any other business that you'd like to, anybody else want to bring up? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
Emotion.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of adjournment?
all right.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we can end this.
Bye.
Thank you.
Night.
Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.